This is The Baseline, discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. Welcome everybody, you're tuned to The Baseline. Callie Warren Shaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA as we continue to move forward. Obviously, anxiously awaiting for that opportunity, for that time for us to know when live sports will be back in our lives. But listen, man, we got to do what we got to do. And the best time and the best place to always do it is when it's fresh and pure and the content is just so richly made. And as always, man, whenever you're cooking up some good stuff, like my man Raekwon would say, when you know what I'm saying, when you're in the lab cooking, you got to make sure that you have the proper personnel around with you to make the perfect batch. So let me go ahead and roll out the red carpet to my right-hand man, www.shawsports.net, Big Kahuna PNC. My brother, Mr. Warren Shaw, repping out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Holla back at me, Mr. Shaw. How excited are you for this upcoming episode that we've got doled out right now?
Well, you know me, man. I'm excited about every single episode, but this one's going to be a special one, taking our talents into another unique space of the basketball business world, if you will. And you talking about cooking, we got a little panini, but we ain't talking about no sandwiches or cold presses, bro. we got.
This is more gourmet, baby. This is more gourmet for the avid sports fans, sports memorabilia, and trading card savant. Yes, absolutely. I like it.
For sure. Yeah, man. So we're excited about this one, man. And, I think it's going to be a great show as always. But as always, salute to all the fans listeners of NBA Baseline. We hope you're staying safe out here amidst the pandemic and rocking with us each and every week.
Absolutely, man. And hey, this is a great episode and a great time for us to continue to reach out to people who are excited to talk about the things that they're doing to help keep us engaged, entertained, and no better person right now than really someone who is at the front end of helping to elevate fan engagement and also the experience of the fan, those that are in sports memorabilia and also in the trading card industry. We have the VP of Marketing, Jason Howarth. He is going to be joining us. He is the VP of Marketing for Panini America, and this is going to be an absolute great time in our upcoming doing a little FaceTime with the Baseline. So we cannot wait to get him on board in the next couple of moments. But as always, we got to roll out the plugs. Be sure to get my man Shaw at Shaw Sports NBA. Get at me at GameFace Lee. The show's Twitter handle at NBA Baseline. You know where to find us. We're available on every major platform. We always encourage you, whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts, look for the Baseline NBA podcast. Add us onto your playlist. Allow us to be your go-to resource discussing all things happening in the association. You know how we do, man. You know how we roll. We're excited to be able to have this gentleman on board with us to talk sports memorabilia, trading cards, and the NBA speech, and also fan engagement. This is really a great time to do it. Let's do a little FaceTime with the Baseline.
It's the questions, boy. It's the questions. It's the questions. Come on, the questions. It's the questions, boy. It's the questions. It's the questions. Yeah, the questions. It's the questions, y'all. It's the questions. It's the questions. Dig it. The questions.
Time to do a little FaceTime with the Baseline. Callie Warren Shaw, the Baseline NBA podcast. And this week we have a great guest on board with us to really talk about where not just the NBA, but where sports is definitely trending in its efforts to elevate the game for people's appreciation, not just in fan engagement, but also in sports acceptability. And right now, the premier in sports memorabilia and trading cards, Panini America, is taking a giant step forward in its endeavors to take us to that next level. And with us to talk more about its innovations in blockchain technology is the VP of Marketing, Jason Howarth. Jason, thanks for jumping on board with us this week on the Baseline NBA podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Hope you guys are all safe and well.
Definitely. Well, so let's kind of talk about that, because I think in this way it can kind of segue into how Panini is taking steps forward, not just to elevate their brand and their advancement in the sports memorabilia and trading card industry, but more importantly about, why you guys are doing it. how's the pandemic affected not just the company but the overall mentality? I often find myself in my partner Shaw, we've jumped on a numerous amount of sports conference virtual conferences, and a lot of it has been more of the uncertainty of where sports is going to be on the other side of this pandemic. And now I think there's this transition where people really want to take bold steps forward. And I think one of those bold steps has been in regards to fan engagement, the fan experience, bolstering it up, getting people to feel confident. Panini has always been in the center of this. And it's interesting that the technology that you guys are rolling out over the last couple of months have certainly been moving that conversation forward. But how are you as the company feeling about what's going on with this pandemic, and how have you handled the experience of people being affected by sports being stymied so far?
Really, really great question. A lot to digest there. I think, what I'll first start off by saying is that, Panini, first and foremost, has always been very focused on fan engagement. And from that fan engagement, it's always been, whether it's at activations around games, around marquee events, but we've always looked at incorporating digital into that element, and that's been a big piece of it for us, across social platforms like Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and our own blog. And so we've always created that in-person experience and then that digital experience. So when this all went down, with this pandemic, it was certainly a balancing act. We had to shift when, we're at 60 plus days with no sports up until NASCAR on Sunday. You know, that was challenging because we're used to, activating around those events. But at the same time, our trading card products are about the player and their uniform, and those moments, right? And so, we've kind of been that crutch for people that have been lacking in being able to see live sports, to be able to go out and collect their players and collect those cards, because our products are sold at hobby stores or online or at Walmart and Target, so people can get access to them. So I think that part has been challenging. I think obviously yesterday's news, California saying that they think that they'll have sports with no fans in attendance by June 1st in some form or fashion. Texas, same thing, Florida, New York. So we're starting to see some of this opening and come back, and it will be different, right? But I think in this time, we've also been forced to kind of think about things differently and adapt differently to how we engage with our fans and collectors and, just the sports fanatic in general. Whether that's meet and greet experiences through Zoom, as opposed to meet and greet experiences with a player standing right in front of you. Yeah. Definitely different, but we've worked on some of that, and that's worked out well. I don't want it to be like the thing that is the future. I'd like to have it a little bit more balanced.
So absolutely, Jason. So this is where I think blockchain technology comes into play, correct?
Back in January, we launched our first blockchain trading cards. And blockchain, for those people is tied to, ownership of a digital asset, is probably the easiest way to kind of define what blockchain is. And so we introduced these blockchain trading cards. The first phase was 100 cards, and it was, you got the digital asset and you got a physical card with it. So there was that connection. There was that understanding from collectors of, hey, I'm getting this unique one-of-one card, and oh yeah, I also have this digital asset. And it was, the best players, best 100 players you could come across from a football perspective, from a basketball perspective, from a soccer perspective, and a baseball perspective. Then we kind of evolved and inserted blockchain cards into our football products, so that when you opened up one of our high-end products called National Treasures, you got a separate blockchain asset in addition to your physical card. So you literally go onto our website and you'd enter in the code, and you might have the one-of-one National Treasures version of Kyler Murray. And then the other part of that is, incorporating blockchain is just a pure straight digital asset. And we've been doing that on our website, on paniniamerica.net. We actually just completed a series over the last 5 weeks of an NBA sneaker series blockchain product that had about 35 cards in it, and we released 5 or 6 per week. And now we're rolling into NFL draft night signature cards on blockchain, which are live this week for the first time, and that'll run on a digital realm here for the next several weeks as well. So those elements are all things, and as people start to understand blockchain and the value of a digital asset, we felt like it was our responsibility to be at the forefront of it from a collecting point of view. And really create that variety across all sports.
So Jason, I thank you for that, that breadth of knowledge and kind of explaining it a little bit. And just, can you dive a little bit deeper when it comes to understanding the technology from the collector side of things? What has been the response, from collectors or people who've historically been in this space with physical cards in hands? What has been their response, or have there been challenges to trying to get them to kind of buy into this new technology?
I think I'm probably a little bit biased, but I think we played it out right. I mean, in the first introduction to it, because we spent about 2 years looking at what the best platform was from a blockchain perspective, right? And blockchain can be really heady for a lot of people. And so you start getting into cryptocurrencies and all these other things, and then you're worried about the volatility in cryptocurrency, as opposed to not just the volatility of a collectible card of a player who may perform or may not perform. And so what we did really early on was, from a blockchain perspective, we made them only sellable in US dollars. So there's no volatility as it relates to a currency, right? Or a cryptocurrency. So you don't need to get your heads wrapped around cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or all the other currencies that are out there from a digital perspective. It's US dollars, right? And then when we introduced that first phase of 100 cards, there was a physical card tied to it. So, from a collector point of view, they understood, oh my God, I'm getting a 1-of-1 Zion Williamson card here. That's a physical card that'll be physically autographed by Zion. And then I also get this digital asset that, at the end of the day, I could take this physical product, this physical card, and sell it in the secondary market and hold on to the digital asset, or I could sell the digital asset. So they almost had 2 pieces, for one. And certainly that created a premium value in terms of, costing, in terms of what people were buying. And because there was a physical card tied to it, that premium price was elevated because they understood the physical component to it. On the digital side, when we started to migrate into just purely digital, is a little bit different. Collectors still had to get their heads around it. There's still this uncertainty of like, what is the true value? The true value is what you want to buy it for, and if it's available at that price. And then, what you want to do with it, and hold on to it and hope that, as more people get into blockchain, get into understanding the market, that if you own this Zion Williamson 1-of-1 card, from a digital perspective, at some point, whether that's 2 years or 6 months from now, where people truly understand it, the value is going to increase over time from what you bought it at.
So would you say launching the blockchain edition with the cards has made a difference?
I think had we just jumped into it as a purely blockchain product with just a digital asset tied to it, it would have been a lot more confusing for collectors to understand what the value of the product was. But because we went with physical and digital connected, first and foremost, that certainly helped. And then I think the other part of it is that, our way of introduction, if you're just a digital tech person and you're totally into digital collectibles and all those things, there's a market for it, right? Well, we wanted to make sure that collectors were integrated into that marketplace. And so one of the ways to do that is by inserting a blockchain asset into our physical product, so that when you go out to the store and you buy that physical product, you're automatically kind of adopted or initiated into the blockchain digital family, for lack of a better definition. And you might not fully understand it, but at least you understand collectibles, and now you have an ownership in a digital asset that you wouldn't have, had you never thought of it before.
Marketing VP Jason Howarth joining us here on the Baseline NBA podcast for Panini America. Be sure to check them on Instagram at Panini America. You've highlighted so many great tidbits of information that it would be hard pressed for our listeners to not, if they have not experienced being in the trading card space, or even just have an interest in sports memorabilia, this is certainly an incentive. So I appreciate you really breaking everything down for us here, Jason. And I want to follow up on something, because to me, the key words so far from having you with us is balance. How Panini America has been able to balance what it offers, not just in its collaborations and partnerships with in this particular instance, the NBA, but also in what is attractive to the sports collector, what is attractive to the sports fan, because, unfortunately, these are two entities that have different pathways. For the young kid, it may be something more digital than, say, someone of an old school person like myself, who still believes in the importance of collecting a physical trading card. How much time have you guys really invested in that? I was very curious in that, because you guys have spent years really studying and digging into how blockchain technology can be beneficial for Panini America. But also on that other side, how much time and emphasis was put in being able to balance how to utilize this movement of using digital assets, and also with the maintenance of being able to continue what it's always been doing in collaboration with the NBA on its emphasis of presenting, collectible cards, and everything that is a representation of why you guys are still at the forefront of what you do.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's a lot there too. And, I would say that, our overarching philosophy is to be where every collector is, right? So whether you have, an interest in just collecting physical, we satisfy that, and we satisfy that at various price points. We talked about kids and adults and all those other things. And so, we've got basketball price points that start, or basketball, football, soccer, baseball, you name it, NASCAR. We've got price points that start at $1.99 a pack that you could buy at Walmart and Target, to products that sell for $1,500, come in a steel briefcase and have diamonds and rubies embedded in the cards. And clearly, little Johnny's not buying that $1,500 briefcase, but his dad, Jonathan, is. Right. And so, we've got this spectrum where we cater to, collective, people that want to collect, or the sports fan, at all different and varying price points. And what we've seen, especially this year, and I shouldn't say this year, but I would say over the last 2 to 3 years, what we've seen that even some of those lower end price points that you find at Target or Walmart, like with our our NBA Prism product, the values that you're finding in that product, it's not just the pretty card, which is Prism is the most popular product out there in the market right now. I mean, literally, we sell it across all of our sports, and it's got this metallic holographic look to it, really compelling, just amazing. And so that price point, whether it's $4.99 a pack, if you pull out a one of one parallel black version of Zion Williamson, that card could be worth, $1,500, $3,000, even more than that on the secondary market. And you're pulling it out of a product that's $4.99. And so, that evolution has happened so that it's, that excitement exists at the lower price points, as well as the higher price points. And so I think we've spent a lot of time really making sure that we catered to, the entire spectrum of collectors, in our product portfolio, with price points that from, that $1.99 at Walmart and Target to, those high-end products. And, I use $1,500, but we've got products that sell for $5,000 a box.
No, I'm sure. Yeah. And they will spend without hesitation. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And so, I mean, it's crazy. The marketplace is the strongest from a trading card perspective that it's ever been. And I think if you grew up in the 80s and 90s like I did, that was like, the boom time, for lack of a better definition. Everyone thought, oh my God, this is great. and you could find products on, every, trading cards on every corner and buy them. And that was great. But what happened was that they were overproduced. And so they didn't maintain their value. And trading cards are built on scarcity. And so that scarcity is defined based on product mix and the portfolio that we highlight, so that there's a wide range throughout the entire season of from an NBA season, so that you've got that variety. And then build in the value. So player autographs, cut up jerseys of players, player jerseys that they wore in games, and we embed them in the cards. We embed diamonds in them. We embed platinum into the cards, so that there's this built-in value that will last through the time. And then obviously unique numbering scenarios. So if you get a 1/1 card, there's only one card of that card ever produced. That's built-in value that didn't happen back in the 80s and 90s. And so we've got that side of it. And then the other side, we talked about the digital component. We spent a lot of time, figuring out how we do that and what the best ways to do that. And blockchain is just one example of that. Blockchain can be incorporated to almost every industry. It's a digital smart asset, right? A contract that you can see who's owned it over a period of time. And so we figured out what was the best way to incorporate it into our business from a trading card and collectible point of view. But the other side is that we also have, digital trading card apps like our NBA Dunk app, and our NFL Blitz app. Fans can get engaged and interact with other fans, through an app, collect those cards digitally and hold them on their phone. Which is a different execution from a blockchain component.
Hey, Jason, tell us a little bit more about the app and how it's helping collectors.
It's all about engagement, right? What we've seen during this pandemic is that, we've seen a lift in how many people are engaged on our digital trading card apps and for how long, because they're, doing a mock draft for the NFL, or they're doing, some of the card breaks, or the case, the card hunting that lives in our apps. And so we've seen this increase of usage for longer periods of time in our app because they're all staying at home. So it served a couple of different purposes. It wasn't necessarily what we thought the purpose was going to be, right? Because no one could have predicted this pandemic. But it's helped us maintain that level of engagement with fans, which is, what we want to do.
So Jason, I got one question that's going to lead into the second question. One, how the hell can I invest? I mean, this sounds like completely amazing, and I think even from my space, Cal and I are people who grew up in that time frame in which you're talking about when the card phase really kind of boomed. And I remember opening packs and just being excited to see what I was able to get. And then you're right, things did become a little bit saturated. I remember even collecting like GI Joes, and those types of things, and couldn't find Cobra Commander and things of that nature. Like, I remember the scarcity of some of these items back in that time and what made it exciting if you were able to actually get it. And then I think my next question really is just, how does the licensing work? Because especially now when you're talking about the blockchain side of things and you're putting these digital assets available online. And I'm trying to figure out, because if you're saying like on some cards, you're able to get like a cut of a player's jersey and things of that nature, but how does that work from the digital space, with a Nike or an Adidas or whoever else, especially when you're talking about the sneakers, how does that all work and kind of come together?
So really good question. So, I mean, again, there's is the exclusive trading card partner of the NBA. We have those rights within physical and digital. So we create those components, based on, what we have from a rights perspective. And then, on the physical side, we've been, cutting up sneakers that we've had players wear during the rookie photo shoots, or we've had them, give them to us after a game that we cut up and we put into physical cards since 2013. And so just that evolution, I think what you've seen is that, the sneakerhead community is, kind of stepped into the trading card community, especially on the basketball side, where there's that interest because I don't know if you guys have heard Gary Vee talk or any of those guys, but, Gary has said for the last year and a half, man, you know what? There's only so many sneakers that you can buy, and so many that are out available in the marketplace, that the next trend is this migration into trading cards. And so man, those basketball sneakers are so beautiful, so compelling. There's a colorway almost every game, right? Depending on who you are as a player. And so there's this persona and personality that's built into that shoe that kind of identifies with that player. And so we've been able to incorporate those, whether that's just the imagery from the game, that we then kind of blow up and highlight on a trading card, or we, acquire that sneaker from the player, and are then able to cut it up and put it into that physical product. But that was one question I think you asked. And then the other part was, how do I invest? How do I get into it? And I think I think that's a really good question. And I think there's no right or wrong answer here, but I'm going to say is, a long time ago, someone said to me, you need to pick what you want to be and then start to focus on that part. Right. And so it's same thing goes for collecting. And there's a whole different way of collecting. You might collect your favorite team. You might collect, rookies and guys that you think might blow up, not right away, but blow up 2 years from now. You might want to collect just rookies. You might want to collect your favorite players. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to do that, and that experience of, opening up cards and seeing what's inside the pack, that doesn't leave you whether you're, 8 years old or, 18 or 28 or 38 years old. It's like, oh my God, what's inside? And when you open up that pack and if there's something special in it, man, you're just as excited as if you were 8 years old. Might be for different reasons, might be because you're like, oh my God, I can sell this for a boatload of money. Or it might be like, oh my God, I just got this guy and man, he's my favorite player. So I would say that, there's a bunch of different ways to collect. Clearly you can go out and buy the product, through hobby stores, online at paniniamerica.net or, through Walmart and Target. And there's a number of variety, there's variety there. Although, our product is so hot right now that, sometimes those shelves look like they're toilet paper shelves in Walmart and Target right now. Everyone's going out and grabbing this stuff as quickly as they put it on the shelf. But there's those sides of things. And then obviously there's a secondary market. I mean, just for things like I know I go back. Rated Rookie is one of the brands tied to Donruss, which is a Panini brand. And every time I hear the word Rated Rookie, I think back to, being 11 years old, chasing that Bo Jackson Kansas City Royal Donruss Rated Rookie card, like literally now. And I'm 45 years old, and that's the first thing that comes to my head when I say Rated Rookie. And so, every once in a while I'll go on eBay and just look to see, look at that Bo Jackson Rated Rookie card. Thankfully, I did manage to get one 11 years old. I don't know how many packs of cards I bought to finally get it, but so I do have that in my collection. But that's what I would say in terms of investing is that there's a bunch of different ways. The other side too, which is really cool. And, I'd be remiss, we're talking about social distancing and, pandemic and stay in shelter and digital, but this phenomenon called case breaking, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with it or not. It's been around for probably about 7 years. But it's basically someone goes online and they live stream opening up a case of product. And so for you, Cal and Warren, what in the case of the NBA, there'd be 30 spots, right? And Cal, you might get the Sacramento Kings, and Warren, you might get the Golden State Warriors, and me, I'm just lucky enough to get the New Orleans Pelicans this year. And so every time, and we buy into those spots, and as the person live streams and opens up the product, every card that comes out that's a Sacramento King goes to Cal. Every card that comes out that's a Golden State Warrior goes to Warren. Every card that comes out that's a Pelican comes to me. And man, I'm jacked because that means I'm getting all the Zion cards this year, right? Like, so that's happening in real time, and it's happening right now. Like, there's thousands of case breaks that go on every single day via live stream. People sitting at home, on their couch watching, with 30 other people that are in the case break, plus all these other people that are watching just to see what comes out of the product. And it's built this community that existed in the hobby store into this global community, from a case breaking perspective. And it is like the best community from a social distancing point of view that we could have ever, planned for had we, thought that this would be a scenario somewhere down the line. But that's what's really grown the trading card community in the marketplace, from a global perspective, to the point that, literally a month ago, in the middle of this pandemic, we launched our online store in China on Tmall, direct to consumer. And we couldn't have predicted that we would do that, let alone in the middle of a pandemic. But we did, and it's been working great. And so, and it's because of that global community that we're able to do that.
So Jason, so where's Panini in all this? I mean, you guys basically, drop a landmine of and opening the doors here, without dispelling any secrets, future plans of where Panini America is and all this. Are you guys like planning to host like a channel for case breaking? I feel like that's like the next natural step. Like Twitch has their own channel for all of their esports, right? So is Panini in that position as well too? Like, are you going to be like, like one of the commentators in the background calling it like Mike Breen when during these cases? I feel like that's because I feel like naturally that's the next step. Everybody wants to be in front of the camera, so to speak, right? Or wants to live stream. And I think that to me is kind of like the feel of where this is. It's not just where it's going to be within its own community, but it's obviously, again, continuing to trend where it's allowing even the people who are just naturally gravitating on YouTube or Instagram Live or whatever to be like the ones that are in the arena, in the seats, watching this unfold and happen, so they can weigh in on this as well too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a great question. First, I'd say, man, the case breaking community, we've got some really great case breakers that are doing a phenomenal job. And I think part of the things that we look to do is focus on what our role in that is, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you always talk about, making sure that you got your blocking and tackling down, right? Mm-hmm. And so ours is producing the product, distributing the product, building awareness for the product, marketing the product, and all those things, and then using various distribution channels to connect to, sports fans. And so, I think that, from a case breaking perspective, that part is, definitely in existence. And I think from our social platform perspective, we do a lot of really good storytelling on Instagram and on Twitter. And, I'll just use an example. The NFL draft, took place a little over a month ago now, or actually almost a month ago. And so, right, we are used to having a presence, both virtually. We've had for a number of years where we release the player's card in real time once they're picked by the team, through our Panini Instant products that are available as a direct to consumer. Those are defined to like create cards in real time based on performance. Obviously, there is no performance right now because no one's playing any games. So, but we've always had that as part of our draft experience, is that, creating that card in real time player after they've been selected by their team, whether that's crossing their stage or whether they've decided to stay at home. And so, this year, the emphasis was really, virtual, and how do we bring that to life? And so, we thought we knew everything we needed to know about how you execute against NFL draft, both from a social perspective and from a in-person perspective. And we were forced to kind of, evolve and adapt. And what we did was we partnered with, 15 rookies across the country, some, in their homes with their families, some in Airbnbs, and some in other locations, just based on what was going on. We partnered with them to be a part of their draft experience. And that was something that we kind of did with Patrick Mahomes for the first time when he came into the league. And Kansas City jumped up to number 10, and, no one knows who Patrick Mahomes is, and Deshaun Watson's still on the board, and boom, there's a Panini banner behind him as he's getting the phone call from Kansas City. And 3 years later, he's the Super Bowl MVP. And, man, we're part of that. And that's been so great because we're so connected to all of these rookies, whether they're on the NFL side or the NBA side. Mm-hmm. And so for us, what we did was we wanted to bring that experience to life, but we didn't have bodies on the ground. And so it was, okay, we're going to produce this Panini Instant card in real time once you're selected by your team, Jerry Jeudy and the Denver Broncos. And so, we hit Jerry up right from the jump and said, here's the card. We need you to post it to your social platforms with a message to your fans. And then there were some other steps that they had to take. But then we had all of these 15 players go on Twitter Live and just take a Q&A with those fans in those cities. that, like, you were a Denver Broncos fan, but you never followed college football. But you knew you needed a wide receiver. In the last, month, you probably started looking at wide receivers to see who was the most compelling, and then you kept your fingers crossed that one of those players would be available for you. When it was your turn to pick, and so Jerry, like within 45 minutes of being drafted, hopped on Twitter Live, did a Q&A. Jacob Eason, when he was selected on that Saturday, hopped on Twitter Live, took questions from fans. I mean, it was amazing. And so, we didn't have that as part of our toolkit, before this pandemic started. But because we had to evolve, because we had to adapt, we jumped in. You either dive into the deep end on digital, or you wait for other people to. And we've always been the people that dive in, and so we weren't sure how it was going to work. Some Twitter lives with players weren't so great, and then we had others that exploded, and that's just part of the mix. So creating that integration, creating that engagement in real time was so compelling, and it just helped us, again, further, push, what our product is and what our brand is. And our brand and our product are the players on our cards, in their uniforms, whether they're drafted on that night or whether they're, scoring touchdowns in September.
So, Jason, my final one before we let you get out of here, man, and thanks so much for this wealth of knowledge and what you've been able to bring to our show and to our listeners as well. Since the launch, of this whole situation, the blockchain technology, what, in your opinion, or what have you seen is as the most valuable or expensive, if you will, basketball related card, just so our fans can have an idea of kind of what's going on in the space?
I don't want to give away too much, but I mean, we've had cards sell, for $50,000, $60,000, on the blockchain. Obviously, those are the guys that are the most compelling. We've had cards sell for $500, from a digital perspective, just purely digital blockchain, no physical card signed, tied to it. And I think, there's, I mentioned earlier that, people are built on, collecting what they want to collect, right? I mean, obviously everyone's going to go crazy over the Ja Morants and the Zion Williamsons, but there's a number of other dudes in this class, from a rookie perspective, or even the veterans that are popping in here, right? Like, everyone's jumping, on the digital side, getting that hot rookie, getting that Zion, getting that Ja Morant, But man, you got Trae Young and you got Luka, a year removed from their rookie. You've got all these other great players, in the league that, I think some of their digital assets are undervalued right now.
Absolutely.
Because everyone's so focused on jumping in on the rookies that you can get really good value on a veteran that's going to be a Hall of Famer.
I want to follow up really quick on that, to just really get your thoughts on this, Jason. It feels like with the NBA, a lot of where the value is in the marketability of the player and what they do. Whereas something like in baseball, and maybe even in NFL, the numbers also help tell the tale, the greatness of a player, whether they're doing it in a couple of years or they're doing it over the stretch of their career. Have you seen that? Has it been more so, like, for example, the rollout of highlighting the 27 card digital NBA sneaker series, and obviously featuring guys like Zion Williamson, Kevin Porter, and RJ Barrett and those guys. That's awesome. That's great. I guess I grew up in an era where I look at the numbers as well too, and see what those guys have produced over the course of their NBA season or their NBA career. That doesn't necessarily depict the value, but also depicts the excitement about why I'm into that player. Do you still see that? Is it more fashionable in the sense that you want to highlight these guys in the throes of what is trending for the current value of an NBA player, but is it also that you guys look at those numbers as well too, to make sure that you highlight when Steph Curry breaks the 3-point shot record for that season, or through the career he obviously inches up another notch, passing a Ray Allen or a Dale Ellis of that type of sort?
Yeah, I would say the answer is yes. I mean, it's all about balance, and I mean, I think that you talk about Steph, he's amazing. Kevin Durant, Kyrie,
Hmm.
you can go down the list on the basketball side. You can go down the list on the football side too, right? But there's always this newness, right? And it
Hmm.
doesn't matter what you do, right? The newness is the shiny thing that I mean, Zion could be the next Kobe, could be the next Hall of Famer. I mean,
Right.
so man, I want to get him first right from the beginning, right from the start of his career. Because I didn't have that. And Kobe came into the league or Steph came into the league or whatever. So there's always that that element of like I want to grab the rookies and I want to be a part of those rookies, and then the vets are you start to weed through the most compelling vets and retired players. I mean, we've got retired guys that are in our product, Bill Russell, you name them,
Hmm.
they're all in there. And so there's that, we diversify our portfolio and our products so that there's that balance between rookies, veteran players, and retired players in our product. Um, and we, it's the most compelling players. So when we market it and when we're highlighting that, we know that there's going to be guys that are going to drive, eyeballs. And so, we want to make sure that, we're leveraging, that part with balancing out the rest of the checklist, of those players that are available at that moment. Right. So, we'd never, put, your top A guy with another top A guy. There's got to be a mix across the board so that there's a balance, especially if you're releasing product or releasing like these digital blockchain cards over a period of time, right? So that you're not just going gangbusters, in 1 week, and then everyone's like, oh, well, I'm done. I already got it, or I didn't get it. So there's that balancing act for sure.
Well, I'm going to leave our listeners with this one thought that I think you had mentioned earlier. Pick what you want to be and go forward. And I don't think that there's anybody best equipped to help Panini move forward than Jason Howarth, VP of Marketing. Jason, man, we appreciate you dropping some serious science on us. And I definitely know for our listeners and myself as well, too, the ability to see Panini at the forefront of it rolling out not just blockchain technology, but at the forefront of featuring and partnering with the NBA again and again and again is certainly one of the main reasons why the NBA continues to be an evolving and a globally popular sport. And we cannot wait for you guys to continue with your collaborations to really highlight the best of what the game has to offer, brother.
Thanks, guys. We really appreciate it. Cal, Warren, you guys are awesome. We're excited. We can't wait for basketball to get back on the court and start playing so we can start rooting for these guys and their performances. But in the meantime, we'll continue to carry them through the product side of it.
It's the questions, yeah. The questions. It's the questions, y'all. It's the questions. It's the questions. Dig it. The questions. It's the questions, boy. It's the questions.
And there you have it. Another solid one-on-one conversation with a marquee player who will have an impact on the way that we will be able, as fans, and even those who are sports collectors or those that are in the sports memorabilia space, how we're going to be able to move forward, not just beyond the pandemic, but our visions moving forward of how we appreciate the sports that we capture and watch on a day-to-day basis, man. And it was just a great opportunity to talk with someone who really is a savant in this field and is leading Panini forward, to the next dimension when it comes to how we appreciate collecting sports memorabilia, trading cards in any genre of sports, but specifically with regards to the NBA, man.
Panini is 100% doing their thing, and we are very blessed and lucky to have, as you alluded to, somebody with that breadth of knowledge and that breadth of passion for this space. And I hope our fans and listeners continue to rock with us as we continue to bring diverse and unique content, to our show on a weekly basis. I think this is definitely one of the more unique shows we've had. It was a lot of fun. Got to thank Jason again for what he's able to bring, and we're looking forward to potentially bringing him on again when Panini launches the next new thing, man. That blockchain technology had me a little bit excited.
Absolutely, man. And hey, especially when we understand where we are with the NBA going forward, I have a very, very sneaky feeling that Jason and his team are going to be knee deep in really pushing the ball forward, and highlighting a genuine way for us to be able to appreciate the uniqueness of the times that we are in. It's not just even about profiting off of what's going on with the pandemic, but really highlighting, almost making it a collector's edition feel if and when we get more details about what's going to happen and how the guys that they have on board to continue to move what they're doing forward, how these guys are going to be on board to be an intricate part to make this a memorable time in our lives, that we can not just appreciate, but also embrace holistically. I think it's something for the next generation to look forward to, and then for them to kind of reminisce and think back and say, what do we have as a momentum? What do we have to remind us of how we got through this? I have a feeling that Panini, Jason, and his team are going to be so fully vested in that, and I can't wait to see what they have rolled out as we continue to get more information moving forward, bro.
Yeah, couldn't say it better myself, man. I think about sometimes in business, sometimes you're unlucky and sometimes you're very lucky. And they had the foresight to really understand where we are besides the pandemic. We're going to launch this technology regardless. They launched it 3 months ahead of the pandemic itself. So Panini seems like a brand that's going to be pandemic proof as we move forward. And again, a kudos to them for launching what they've launched. And I'm sure they're going to be part of the innovative class of the sports memorabilia game for a very, very long time to come.
Absolutely. And once again, for those who are interested to finding out more about Panini, blockchain, and also the patented digital series, go to www.paniniamerica.net. For the Baseline, Callie, Warren Shaw, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for hopping on board with us, and we'll catch up with you next time.